Good morning, everybody. How we doing? Woo. Look at this room. Wow. Wow. It's amazing. And thank you so much, JP, for that introduction. As JP mentioned, I'm Marit Stiles. I'm so tired. I've been kicking some Ford butt all week, so. I'm Marit Stiles. I'm the leader of His Majesty's Official Opposition, NDP. And I want to thank you, and I want to thank you so much for inviting me today to join you all here. I go to a lot of speaking engagements, and this is exactly the kind of crowd I love the most. Union allies that energize me in all the right ways. And you fill me with hope. You fill me with hope and with optimism for the big progressive wins that we want for workers, for working people, for Ontarians, and for this province. I'd like to thank JP for their leadership as president of OPSEU, and to all of you for organizing and mobilizing and your fight. And I know that by working together, we're going to win more for workers and all Ontarians during one of the most difficult times we've seen in generations. And I also want to just a little special shout out here for the staff team at NDP Caucus. They're OPSEU members. Local 578, and I'm a former member of that local, so big shout out to them. I also want to mention, for many people here who might have been celebrating and fasting during the month of Ramadan, today is Eid. It's the end of that fasting. I want to say Eid Mubarak to everybody. So for those of you who don't already know this, I was actually not born and bred in Ontario. I moved here from St. John's, Newfoundland. Oh, hello. To go to school, but I stayed here. My partner and I stayed here because this is where the jobs and the opportunities were, for sure, at that time when things were not great in our home province. And I really began to love Ontario. I loved this province. I loved the forests and the lakes. I loved the towns and the cities. And I loved it so much that I decided to stay here for 30 plus years and build a life here and a career and a family. And the promise of what Ontario is kept me here. It's what kept me going. It gave me space and opportunity to grow and to build myself up in the ways that I really never would have dreamt possible. And I wanted my daughters to have that same hope and that same optimism. But right now, and it really saddens me to say this, but things are way off in the province of Ontario. Ever since I announced my leadership and since becoming the leader of the official opposition, I've been touring around Ontario, meeting workers in union halls and on shop floors, and everywhere I go, from Thunder Bay to Sudbury, to London, to Kitchener, to Windsor, to Ottawa. I should just keep going. I hear the same things, though, again and again. Things don't feel right here in Ontario. They don't feel normal. And I know that you see that in your work for the people of our province. And I know you feel it in your lives, too. And really, how can they feel normal? We're living through a 40-year inflationary high. People are going through a damn difficult time at the moment. Workers in all sectors are struggling with the sudden and steep rise in the cost of living. They're feeling weighed down by the record high cost of living, worried about whether they'll be able to meet next month's rent. Ontarians with full-time jobs, some even juggling more than one job, are turning up at food banks, right? You know it, I know it, we see it. ER wait times for a bed are as high as 22 hours. That's almost a full day. There's a mental health and addictions epidemic sweeping across our province. Income inequality has widened. Young people have given up on the hope of ever owning a home, and they're moving away. Ontario right now is a very far cry from the province that I moved to 30 years ago. And the sad reality is that right now we have a government that is so out of touch that they don't even know what it's like for working people. Or worse, they just don't care. We have a government that's willing to say anything to get elected. They break their promises. They renege on their commitments. And they ideologically sell off our public healthcare system to bring in a two-tier privatized system. And you know what really gets me? They cut people short while they're giving their insider friends cash for access. Doug Ford, and I hear this all the time from people. You know, everywhere I go in this province, they say to me, it feels like we're going to a different time, you know, where a time when a few wealthy individuals with profit interests could sway government priorities, right? We saw it with the Greenbelt, right? Don't tell me there's not something fishy going on with Ontario Place and on the Ontario Science Centre. Come on. The only time this government's planning decisions, the only planning decisions they make are how they're going to move public dollars into private pockets, right? Their budget was a massive disappointment. It let Ontario workers down. It failed the workers that were looking for relief. And in this very difficult moment for so many people in our province, they showed us who they really are. The government recently increased the minimum wage to $16.55. I know you know that. And while I'm glad that people, especially the particularly low-income workers and families, are getting a bit of a boost in wages to offset the rising cost of living, we cannot lose sight of the fact that this was something the government was obligated to do by legislation. Right? And we can definitely not forget that this is the same government that froze the minimum wage at $14 an hour when they were supposed to increase it to $15. This is the same government that canceled the cost of living increase to the minimum wage for 2 years. And without that freeze, today's workers earning minimum wage would be making $17.99 an hour. And I can tell you, in this economy, even close to $18 an hour, that is no longer cutting it. People in this province need and deserve fair wages. For 5 long years, Ford has been at war with workers. He has suppressed the wages of nearly 1 million public sector unionized workers and bulldozed your collective agreement bargaining rights with Bill 124. You fought back hard. You showed him the power that comes from standing together. And now he's refusing to back off from appealing that court's decision to repeal Bill 124. This relentless and insensitive push to suppress your wages has not only hurt you, the workers who literally take care of our province, but it's caused chaos across the public service. He legislated millions of deferred wages of workers paid into the WSIB and sent them to employers, all while their record numbers of Ontario's injured and sick workers and their families remain in poverty because of wage claims, or are assessed as having phantom jobs they don't actually hold, without a shred of relief or even compassion from this government. And you know, New Democrats have been calling on the government to guarantee 10 paid sick days for all workers so they can safely work and stay at home when they're sick instead of going to work. And I want you to know, the Ford Conservatives have voted that down every single time we move it. And earlier this month, Ontarians lost access to the measly 3 paid sick days that workers were given during this pandemic. Is this a government that shows how they care for working people? You know what? Enough is enough. Enough is enough, right? Enough is enough. Ontario has a strong and a dedicated public service. Without the dedication and the hard work of your members, even more people would be falling between the cracks right now. But we can do a hell of a lot better. And we have to do better to restore fairness, to restore opportunity, and to restore prosperity in Ontario. It's time for a government that actually believes in the public service in this province, one that treats workers with dignity and with respect, one that doesn't unconstitutionally interfere with your right to free and fair collective bargaining, one committed to ending the waste of contracting out, one committed to strengthening capacity across the public sector. You know, the Conservatives, they use their majority powers to strangle democratic processes, to direct contracts, legislative changes, tax dollars to business, anything for their friends. Well, I gotta tell you, I am looking forward to a day when we work with you and other public sector unions to build a new Ontario. An Ontario that relies on a revitalized and a proactive public service. You know, I was talking earlier about the new normal, right? What we've come to believe is normal. And I want to tell you, when I ran to be leader of the official opposition NDP, the reason I decided to run was because of the low voter turnout in the last provincial election, right? That was not a good day for Ontario. That was not a good day for democracy, for any of us, for any of the political parties. And I think we all take responsibility. Because people don't really know what to vote for anymore. They've given up hope. They've been told again and again and again that this is as good as it gets, that you can't expect better, that the status quo is how it's going to be. Well, I want a better province. I want a province where people can hope again, can believe again, where our kids and our grandkids can imagine affordable housing, right? Can imagine a government that's going to fight for working people. I want a normal where people have fair access, faster access to the public health care they need, regardless of who they are or their ability to pay. I want a province where students can get the one-on-one need that they need to succeed, where wealthier people and wealthy corporations pay their fair share again, where people can get a well-paying, unionized job, afford a home, build a family, give their kids a solid public education, where a government gets back into the business of truly building affordable housing in this province, right? And not leaving it up to the market to set the rate. Where hiring scrub workers is illegal. Where we have card check certification, so it's easier to join a union. Because strong unions, and I know you know this, are the sure shot way of addressing income inequality. Unions raise the workers' wages, but especially for women, especially for Black and Indigenous and racialized and marginalized workers, especially for refugees and immigrants. And we know that unions like OPSEU, help everyone benefit from the hard work of labor, and not just the people at the very top, not just Ford's insiders. But we can only achieve this promise of Ontario, if we keep our promises to workers across all jobs and all sectors. And my promise to you, as the new leader of the official opposition and a former OPSEU member, And the new leader of Ontario's NDP, the Workers' Party, is to stand in solidarity with you every single step of the way. I believe the promise of a new Ontario is possible. We're going to keep pushing back against this government's anti-worker, austerity, and privatization agenda. We're going to stand shoulder to shoulder with you every step of the way. And together, we're going to win more for every single person in this province. And we will win government in 2026. Thank you all so much.